instead of marketers telling me just fluffy theory, I really want to know the how. Like, even if you tell me the concept, I want the details broken down of how to actually do this. So then, as just like a rough example, in the copy or in a title, you can say, here's how to such and such, detail step by step, not just the theory, not just the frustratingly vague theory. So you literally just take what they're saying and turn it into either copy or the offer itself, or a value proposition, or the web copy, or the landing page, or this. So it makes up the building blocks of literally everything.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It is my pleasure to have Suzanne Reilley with us. Suzanne is a business coach, marketing strategist, and copy advisor for professional service businesses and online course creators, specifically those who are passionate about helping others. She's HubSpot Inbound certified and an IPEC-certified professional coach. Across over 7 years, she's worked individually with hundreds of repeat clients and has a list of solid metrics under her belt. Her work has been featured in Voyage LA, Canvas Rebel, Go Solo, The Washington Post, and Daily Candy. Suzanne, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first of all, I'd love to call out that you pitched yourself instead of using like an interview booking service, which I get a lot of those. And I thought your pitch was really good. I don't normally review the pitches. That's my team, but I just your pitch happened across my virtual desk, and I don't know, I rely on my intuition, and I decided to say yes. And so I don't normally get guests on that have pitched, and I would love for you to kind of share what your process is for getting booked on shows and how that differs from the typical approach that someone would use to get booked on a podcast.
Sure, definitely. So I recently started pursuing media training, and I realized, I'm skilled in the things that you mentioned in terms of digital marketing, but PR is it's a totally different thing. And certainly some of my skills transfer in terms of being able to write emails and just communicate with people, but it really is a whole different world with different best practices and just a different culture. So I pursued media training to leverage my marketing efforts. So it wasn't always just I love meeting people organically, and, social media has a place, but I really wanted to share value with other people's audiences and, share podcasts on mine as well to leverage those efforts a bit more. So I am also very intuitive, and I'm always mixing logic and intuition. And I'll be honest, a lot of times intuition has a heavier weight, a heavier focus, but I'm always merging the two. And so I don't know, I was just searching, or I don't know, did a quick Google search or clicked just the right things. And I came across prpitches.com, which is a media training platform and also a software that Commodity Constable has put together. And I just looked at it briefly and just thought yes, and and signed up. And so I've just been devouring everything inside that course. And he has media training on what to do, what actions to take. He has templates for, there's like a podcast pitch template. There's a contributor pitch template for, large publications like Forbes and Success, things like that. And so there are templates for these different types of things. And with his guidance in the course, I put it together with topics I can speak on confidently. And then in the software, I can also pull up shows that fit with my expertise, and it gives an introduction of the show, and it also lists the last 10 episodes. So I can give a look and see initially, okay, because I want to be on the right shows too. So, does this seem like it would be a good fit? And I thought yes. And so I used the pitch template, pitched it through the software, And then you replied.
That's awesome. Well, it worked. I like that you reached out yourself rather than using a booking service, because most of our pitches are from PR professionals or booking agencies, podcast booking agencies, and yeah, you stood out. And I'm not adverse to using a tool that helps to finesse an email and track whether it got through and got responded to. We use Pitchbox, which is a really sophisticated platform for link building, outreach, and to get on podcasts as well, but for all kinds of media and link building opportunities. And I actually had the co-founder of Pitchbox, Michael Janellis, on this podcast a while back. Great episode, by the way, listener. Check that one out. And so that's great that you take something that you learn and you apply it, and you course correct if it needs it, and you get results. That's awesome. I love marketing that isn't just theoretical, but you're applying it and you're learning and growing throughout the process. So good. Kudos to you for that. And I also like the fact that you use your intuition too as you're deciding where to pitch and how to pitch.
Yeah. And would you, if you feel this would be helpful to the listeners, would you mind sharing what is different about a pitch from a PR company that can be a little off? And just sort of what the other side of that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. So the kinds of pitches that we get, and I don't look at most of them these days, it's my team, but they're typically some ingratiating or disingenuous, really, comment at the beginning about having a great show and that the latest episode, whatever, insert in the blank, it's pretty obvious that they didn't listen to that episode or they're not a listener to the show at all, but they say it anyways, and that is an immediate turnoff. And what is their motivation to do so? It's not pure intent. It's just to I don't know, grease the wheels, I guess. And another thing that some of them do is they'll post a review and take a screenshot of it and say, "Here's a 5-star review I added to Apple Podcasts for your podcast," and that feels really icky because they have no business as a non-listener writing a review, even if it's positive. That doesn't feel authentic to me. I would prefer that they don't do that than leave these inauthentic 5-star reviews. That doesn't happen as much. This used to be a thing back, years ago, several years ago. Thankfully, I'm not seeing that very often. It feels icky to me. And then they'll put in this huge blurb about the person that they're pitching, and it very much feels flowery and hyperbole and so forth. It's a real turnoff. It's not specific. It's vague and world leading, renowned. All these vague and overblown statements. So that's the sort of stuff that gets an immediate delete, not even a no, just delete. And yours was different. So yeah.
That's great. That's really awesome. Like I said, I'm new to this, so it's really awesome to understand the difference and that what I sent through was authentic, because that's really important to me in marketing, really understanding that there is a person on the other side of the receiving message. And I don't like things that feel icky, and I hope to not be creating anything that feels icky. And so, yeah, it's just good to hear.
Yeah. So how do you create funnels and copy and campaigns that are authentic and rely on your intuition and are, of course, successful? What's your process or approach to create these kinds of initiatives?
Sure. So, I think, and certainly anything I've learned, it was by making a ton of mistakes before getting to the thing that worked. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that I'm hugely customer centric. it's not that the customer is always right or that type of thing, but it's that I really want to be creating a website or offers or emails or social content, anything like that for the reader, because that's who it's for, And so it's really, it's very, very natural and very understandable how business owners want to share about their passions and want to share about themselves and say, our company has built this or that. And there is a place for that. But really, I have found that the vast majority of a brand should really be highly customer focused, and there should be a lot of research to understand who that person is and what they want and need and what their challenges are, and making things for them.
Mhm.
And when we make things for them, and conduct business in an ethical and responsible way, people come to the site and they just, it's like a sigh of relief. It's this response of, wow, this person really gets me. They really understand me. I'm in the right place. I feel like I can maybe initially trust them.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll take a shot at this. And so, everything is built with a ton of customer research in mind, with the business goals and passions in mind, and with some competitor research in mind. Those are the three things that, in my experience, can answer almost any question that people have about what to do next or what to build or why something should be.
Yeah. How do you collect this research?
There are a lot of different ways to do it. There are a couple ways that I'm not as much of a fan of. I have always mostly been in the entrepreneurial space or in full-time roles with small teams. So I've never had, like multi-million dollar budgets to work with. So, and it's kind of a blessing because I'm always looking for the easiest and most powerful path from here to there. So, when people say, like, sometimes big corporations will hold focus groups, and to me, that's just, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, it's a lot. And similarly with customer interviews, so people can do customer interviews. The benefit of those is that you can really hear the tone in somebody's voice of how they're speaking about something. You can really hear the things that are emotionally charged. You can hear the things that they find really challenging. But they certainly take time. You have to find people to interview. And you also have to be a good interviewer, because a lot of times people won't speak about themselves. They'll speak about their thoughts about the industry at large. So if you say something like, what was happening in your life that brought you to explore this product or service, they'll say, well, I think what people are really looking for in this case is such and such and such. And it's like, no, I was like curious about you. So you really have to direct the interview properly to get good information. And that can take a bit of learning and skill. The other thing that people sometimes use is surveys. And I don't really love relying on this path either, because we are all so over surveyed these days. Like, you search Google and it was like, would you like to take a survey? How are those results? It's like, you can't take two steps without meeting a survey. And so I will use those sometimes, but only very strategically, with a very specific question in a very specific place, very sparingly. So the ways that I defer to instead, and I teach my clients how to do this because it's just so helpful, like I said, in crafting anything, are basically three top ways. Amazon reviews, mining the comment section of your social media and also competitors' social media. And the third one is going through past client communication. And so I'll describe a little bit about Amazon reviews because not everybody is familiar with that. So basically, you pull up your niche or your topic or the thing that you're trying to research. So say somebody is looking to make their marketing simpler, something like that. So you look up books that are all about how to make marketing simpler, how to understand marketing, and look for the ones that have a lot of reviews. Of course, omit any that are just like overly flowery or overly hateful or just look like spam, but look for the ones that look genuine and read through, and in one part, feel the overall vibe of the conversation. If you're the intuitive type, like really get that sense of the overwhelming feel that everybody, like the space that everybody's in, and then also look through specifically and look for people's hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations, especially in ways that seem emotionally charged, in ways that are stated as elements of story, like the kid dropped the egg on the floor and just walked away and it sat there. Like, like you can see it and you can feel it and you can, so you're looking for those things that people want, that they're challenged by, and basically put it all in a document that you can refer back to later, because these are the building blocks of great conversion copy. But you can go through and see the trends, and basically it becomes so easy in terms of, if a whole bunch of people, if you're seeing the trend of a whole bunch of people say, I wish there was I'm trying to think of the right thing. Okay, one thing I've come across, instead of marketers telling me just fluffy theory, I really want to know the how. Like, even if you tell me the concept, I want the details broken down of how to actually do this. So then, as just like a rough example, in the copy or in a title, you can say, here's how to such and such, detail step by step, not just the theory, not just the frustratingly vague theory. So you literally just take what they're saying and turn it into either copy or the offer itself, or a value proposition, or the web copy, or the landing page, or this. So it makes up the building blocks of literally everything. And once you know how to do it, it makes things so much easier. You don't have to come up with, random ideas in your head that you don't know if they're going to resonate or not.
Gotcha. And then what are some of the other components of a great conversion copy besides this customer research, this market research that you've collected? And there must be some additional secret sauce that you're baking into this, into the copy for your emails and landing pages and so forth.
Definitely. So I think with conversion copy, it's something that can be very misunderstood, and I totally get it, because a lot of us we've been quote unquote writing since elementary school. So people go, oh, I know how to write. Like, I can write this. But it's a really different type of writing. It's like saying, if you could write in elementary school, it doesn't mean you can write legal contracts. And just because we could write in elementary school doesn't mean that we know the art and the science of conversion copy. So basically, there are different, and I will say, I help people refine their copy, but I don't offer an in-depth copywriting course, because I believe there are people out there who already have that nailed, and I'm happy to send people there. I learned largely through Jeff Walker's product launch formula, Joanna Weeb's copy hackers, and I haven't done the story brand method, but people who come to me having done that, there's a lot of synergy. So, I really recommend that people take dedicated training on what this is and what the craft is. But basically, it's a series of practices to keep people engaged. And so that can include things like speaking to the reader instead of about yourself, keeping things conversational instead of it being like academic writing. You want it to flow. You want it to be easy. Sometimes adding italics or things in quotes or certain line breaks. There's like a texture and a cadence to it as well. To have in mind, there's the concept of starting in the middle of the action, just like a lot of books do. So there are a lot of principles like that to fold into the copy, whether it's emails, landing pages, and it really is this art and a science that I believe is so helpful for people to learn as a skill set. As business owners, we have to pick and choose what we're going to do ourselves and what we're going to outsource, the do it yourself or the done for you. And I think learning to write copy is one of those skills that's really worth learning because it's such a high value thing. So it can be quite an investment to hire for when you're writing stuff all across your funnel, websites, emails, landing pages, thank you pages. It goes absolutely everywhere. And also if somebody learns to write it themselves, like we all know those times where something breaks or, I've been in the middle of a launch with somebody and they're like, oh, we forgot to write this thank you page, or we forgot to write this page or that page. And you can just hop in and write it. And not, people aren't always just immediately available to hop in. So.
But what about we're in this brave new world of AI? You could prompt ChatGPT to write you an email or a thank you page in the style of Donald Miller's StoryBrand framework or Copy Hackers or Product Launch Formula and copy and paste, right?
You could. Here's been my experience with that. And I'm so glad this question came up because I was just talking about this with someone yesterday. So my experience with AI is that, okay, so first of all, I'm so used to doing this by hand and I'm so used to my own process that's what I tend to default to. But I have played with ChatGPT when my brain gets stuck or when the ideas jam, and just to put something in there and be like, okay, what are you seeing, machine learning? Can you help me think up new ideas or different ways to say this or different things to include?
Anne Handley, who is the author of Everybody Writes, she was a past guest on this podcast. She came out in a recent newsletter with this concept that the AI is like it's like a golden retriever that comes to you with a ball, and it's very excited and easily amused and kind of incessant. And so if you need that help, by all means, grab that golden retriever called ChatGPT or Claude, and it will help you come up with ideas for articles and outlines and phrases and research tidbits and so forth. But the danger with that is you get lazy if you rely on it too much. And it can be a first draft tool, a first draft version, but it makes you lazy if you're relying on it. And thus, her position is not to use it for anything other than research, or when you're out of ideas or you're stuck looking at a blank page and you just don't want to have to pull it out of your head.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think with ChatGPT, it's important to know enough to vet what it gives you. So sometimes when I've pulled things up, I have the experience to look at what it pulls up and either say, oh, that is a really good idea that I haven't thought of. Or the one time I tried to have it write a value proposition, which are really hard to write because you have to fit a whole lot into one little phrase, sort of like what's unique about the company, who they help, how they help them. It has to be specific, memorable, all these things. And so I was like, let me see if let me see if ChatGPT can write value propositions. And no, it sucks at them really bad. Like, I was like, okay, I'll have to keep writing those myself. So I think it's important to at least have enough knowledge to be able to it. I've also heard of people talking about it like an assistant. And so, it can bring you things and you can say, oh, this is really good. I'll take this. I'll take that. I'll take that. This, I would love if that were refined a bit more, and maybe ChatGPT can do that, or maybe you need to do that. But I wouldn't just blindly take what ChatGPT gives. And the other thing I'm coming across is now I think we're seeing a bit of duplication of what it shares. So I had it help me write one of my course titles, and the first part of it is cracking the code, and now all these different places I've seen cracking the code, and I'm like, oh, I got to change that title now because it's like the Chat GPT phrase of the hour. So.
Yeah, yeah, everything is leveraged or whatever. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I think, in fact, this relates to your pitch. One of the items in your list of topics that you could speak to in the email that you sent me was conscious and authentic marketing. And I don't think using Chat GPT or Claude in an undisclosed fashion to write your first draft and then you tweak it and then submit it as your work is authentic.
Yeah, I agree. And well, when you say that, you're thinking of submitting something to where? Say like a podcast pitch?
Whether it's to your blog or it's to some third party website or it's to your email list as an email newsletter, I think you have to disclose that you used AI to write it. And I don't know that very many people are that keen on doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought of that in terms of disclosing or not. I guess I haven't used AI that much for it to really affect me personally. But yeah, I mean, certainly with big media publications, they don't want any AI whatsoever, which I really appreciate. I mean, that would make a world where everything we read in magazines and newspapers and things like that would be AI, which I would really like humans to be sharing their thoughts and have us be able to connect in those ways. And
Yeah.
so I think I mean, say if it's so definitely not in the news, definitely not in magazines or large publications. I'm thinking through like sales pages for online that can be a little different, but even so,
Well, let's say you had a lead magnet, a free PDF download. That piece of work, that intellectual property that you're offering for free as an opt in, is not original work if you used AI at all in the book, in that download. In fact, in an episode, recent one with Heather Pierce Campbell, she's a lawyer, and we were talking about AI and how it's not copyright protectable, anything that is AI generated. And so if you're weaving into a book or some other IP AI generated text or images, now you have something that's not considered an original work and you can't submit a registration to the Copyright Office.
yeah, and that's a great point, and that isn't something I've even considered doing. Um, I think when I've thought of using AI, it would always be for the say like the opt-in language on the opt-in page, or so some type of title or sales language. I've never even considered using it for the content, so I haven't thought much into the legalities of that. Yeah, because I can't imagine offering something and not sharing my own expertise and thoughts, because it would get wonky then if people opt in for that piece and say they love it, and then if they want to work with me in other ways, there would be a disconnect. They'd be like, oh, you weren't like that other you weren't like that other piece. So yeah, I've all the stuff I've made has definitely been me. And I'm thankful that I've not even thought of this concern.
Yeah. So you wrote as the topic, as I said, conscious and authentic marketing. So what do you do with your marketing or with your clients' marketing to make it more conscious and authentic?
So I think first I want to speak a bit in the realm of copywriting, because sometimes the question comes up of, oh, isn't that manipulative? Isn't that, if you bring up the topic of persuasion, it starts to get a little bit icky, but there are elements of copy that are elements of persuasion. And I've literally racked my brain over this for a really long time, thinking, am I really being respectful to this audience if I'm using these tools that are persuasive? And it was really bothering me. So what I came to is that there's a bit of a continuum where something we write has just no engagement. It's just like talking about the weather, and it's just like a nice note to a friend or something. And it, maybe it has impact for that purpose, but it's not engaging in an online space. And it's just like not very effective in that way. And on the other end of the spectrum, there are absolutely copywriters who are studying the dark arts and will prey on people's insecurities and wrangle them for as long as is necessary to make the sale at all costs. I am not that person. And so I exist in the middle. I believe it's important for copy to be engaging. There's a difference to me between engaging and manipulative. And I will resonate with a person's current experience, but I will not drag up a whole bunch of extra fear and insecurity that wasn't already there. I just think it's rude. I don't like buying from things like that. And so it's having messaging that is engaging and respectful in that way. It's also a matter of connecting an audience that has a need and a desire and a challenge that a product or service solves really well. So that is another way that I believe is conscious and authentic marketing, of I'm really helping stitch together two people or a brand with a purchaser who would love to meet each other. I'm not interested in selling ice to Eskimos or, just making people buy another widget that they don't need or, anything like that. So, it's being respectful of an audience. It's connecting them to things that it's clear from the research that they really want. And that's just a great recipe for long-term sustainability in business anyway. Like I find that, I don't know, people might be able to manipulate an audience for a while, but there's a cost. And it's just, I don't know. I don't like that whole energy. So those are the two biggest things.
And when you have an intention to reveal light or do good or be a force for good in the world, I do believe that whatever sales or marketing that you're embarking upon will be more conscious and more elevated and will get you a better result, not just for you, but for everyone involved. So yeah, that's something that I have kind of front and center in my mind as I'm, whether it's producing a podcast or writing an article or blog post or working on a book, speaking to a client, giving a talk. I always think about revealing light, revealing as much light as possible, and that does make a difference.
Definitely. And I think it also comes down to one other thing I think it's important to share with that is that, when we write a really engaging sales page or landing page or email copy, whatever we're offering, it sounds obvious, but it's so important that we deliver on that. So things are only spammy when we don't deliver on the thing we're promising. So, and it's just, I've had a pretty steep and winding and messy path learning a lot of this stuff, which I think a lot of people can relate to. And so um, I can appreciate the wisdom and evolution that I've gained from that. So I have peace about, my own journey in that regard. But it is also a really big joy for me to help other people see things more simply, see things more clearly, help them see around corners. So if there's a way for them to do it faster and easier, I can help them do that too.
So you're doing coaching primarily and not doing the marketing for your clients. Is that right?
Yeah. So couple different things with that. So I had been in a space of doing a lot of strategy and copy for basically anything all across the funnel. Specifically, like when people say, okay, people are dropping off at this place, what's going wrong? Like troubleshooting and then writing the copy to be better. Usually there's some kind of disconnect between where people are coming and where people are going, and streamlining that messaging um, to make sense across all the pieces is something I've done. I've written a lot of copy for emails, and I do really enjoy that. There is sort of a drawback to that, is that I love to immerse myself in a brand. I love to understand all the nuances. I love to see how all the pieces fit together. And when I was doing that type of service, I found that when I would leave the project, that I took all that with me. And the client was sort of like, didn't really know how the words came together, why they came together, what went into it. So they just weren't really an integral part of that evolution. Whereas now I'm doing more copy advising, where people who are learning to write copy, they'll put messages together and then sometimes send ones to me that they want some feedback on. And I'll be able to say, like, this is beautiful, this is beautiful, this is beautiful. This could be expanded. This title could be a little bit stronger, and helping them hone their craft. And in the process, they become intimately knowledgeable in their own brand. And I find that to be a lot more empowering. Both have a place. A lot of times we can't write all the copy for our own brand because there's just a lot to do. But I'm really enjoying helping to empower people to write their own copy. I'll still take some copy projects, taking a little break. They do take a lot of energy. They take a lot of energy. They take a lot of focus. And so I'm just sort of being sparingly with how many I take right now. Also, sometimes if I take just 2 projects, then I'm like jammed. And I don't have space for anything else. So with taking less of those, I just have a little more space for other things.
Yeah. Speaking of which, by the way, I was interested that you had listed on your list of topics self-care.
Oh my gosh.
How is self-care something that helps you with your marketing?
Oh my gosh, where do we even start? It's such a good topic, and it's such a big topic. So I think with self-care, okay, and let me go back. I have like an open loop in my mind about what else I'm typically helping people with now. Yes, they come to me with their
Oh,
their
sure.
their brand issues, and they'll say like people aren't converting here, or like they just have some kind of problem, and I help them troubleshoot that. And instead of what a lot of people do on their own is, there's a problem, so they scrap the whole entire thing. They're like, we need a new website, or like, we need a new whatever. And that's like if your car is making a noise and you just start like tearing out the engine and stuff like that. No, like you go to a reputable, responsible mechanic who has your best interest in mind, and you pinpoint the problem and you implement the easiest and most powerful and most efficient and most cost-effective solution. So that's what I help people pinpoint. That's what I advise people on how to do. And sometimes there's a whole lot of work to be done. Sometimes it's just a little thing that needs to be shifted. But either way, they know, and they can make really informed changes to make a difference. So back to self-care. Oh my gosh, it's so important. So I think first of all, it's important to mention that most of us live in a society that values bigger, faster, more all the time. It's always how can I 10x? How can I double my income next year? How can I grow to more and more employees? And I am all for just limitless success. I'm all for any amount of growth people want. And I think it's important that we make an intentional decision about what revenue goals we have and also what lifestyle goals we have. Because some of the people who are grinding get to their goals and are really stressed out and really don't love what they built and wish they didn't build it quite as big, or maybe they really miss the things that they were doing, quote unquote, one level below that. And so I think it's really important to consider who we are and how we're wired and what we believe we want to build based on that. So for me, I do spend a lot of time caring for my mental health. And so I need balance. Like I need space. I need to do things that I enjoy. I need to do things that fuel me rather than take from me. I'm just a deeply feeling and sensitive person in the best and most challenging of ways. And so it's important that I respect that, or I get like ground into a stuck place. So I think the first step in self-care is knowing yourself. Some people want to run 3 companies at a time, and that's how they're wired. So if someone just thrives on working 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day or whatever, like do it. But I'm someone who needs nature and like a casual lunch and like a walk in the sun. And so I build my business accordingly. And that means I will never dominate my industry, but I don't want to. That would wear me into a nub. And so I can be really successful in the ways that matter to me. And that's perfect to me, if you ask me. And I recommend that other people do similarly.
Do you have a particular morning ritual or routine that helps you to prepare and be in a place of receptivity and intuition and flow for the day, whether you're working on marketing or coaching or whatever?
You know what? It's so funny you asked that. And I think this is an important aspect of self-care that, the answers that we would expect are, some form of like fresh air or exercise or meditation or healthy breakfast. And I'm like kind of a slow start in the morning, and I just like, like my self-care is like not talking and coffee, and I think it's like, and I think it's, so that's the coolest part of self-care, that we can take inspiration from things online, like, the green juice in the morning or going for massages or like the classic go-to things that you'll find in different articles online. But I think one of the things that I've learned is that it's so important to hear and understand ourselves. Sometimes self-care looks like, I'm just not doing that till tomorrow. Sometimes, I don't personally drink much because I don't process it well. I'm just really sensitive to it. But someone who has a different relationship with that might be like, I just need to drink a couple beers and like watch a movie. Like, it's just like self-care is really, it's so unique to each individual, and it's so unique to each situation and each moment. It can be, I need to be with people, or I need to be alone, or I need to be. So for me, my morning routine is usually some form of like rolling out of bed and not talking and drinking coffee. So just being like really honest about that. And then I'm such a night owl. So sometimes I'll do creative work late at night, or just get back to things in the quiet of the night. So I think it's really important that we honor our rhythms and listen to that.
Yeah. On my other podcast, which is a personal development show, Get Yourself Optimized, I interviewed Dr. Michael Bruce, who's a famous sleep doctor. He's the author of The Power of When. And there are these chronotypes that he's typed about in the book, of like, there's the dolphin, there's the night owl. He doesn't call it the night owl, he calls it something else, the wolf, I think. There's the bear, and so forth. And knowing your chronotype and then working with it instead of against it, and trying to jam a square peg into a round hole is really important. So if you recognize that you work really well at night, then relish that, prepare for that. Don't try to also have early morning meetings because you feel like you have to.
I so agree. And, nobody has ever revolted against having an afternoon meeting. So it's, I think people think that maybe a non-traditional rhythm will cause more problems than it does. I mean, certainly, I don't have kids. So certainly if someone has young kids, that's a different story. But yeah, so the decisions are all really unique to us. And I think it's important to, in any of these realms, take notes from the best practices, but also trust what we need in that moment.
Awesome. So I know we're at time here. If you would like to share your website and any social platforms that you'd like our listener to check out so that they can follow you, learn from you, and perhaps even hire you, where should they go?
Sure. So if anyone wants to get in touch, I'm at SuzanneReilley.com, and that'll always be the most up to date if anything shifts or changes or evolves. At the website, I have a free email opt-in. It's called Content Calendar Mastery. I have it on my second monitor over here. It's called Content Calendar Mastery. Map out a year's worth of engaging topics in 90 minutes or less. And it's really a way to mine for the questions that people are asking. And then really, if you just have 52 of those, you kind of have your content topics for the year if you're posting once a week. So that's a place that you can get some notes to continue, as you said, not only understanding the theory, but taking specific action on that topic. And I'm also, I would say I'm most active on LinkedIn. I dabble on the other platforms, but probably the best social platform to find me is probably LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll include all the links in the show notes for this episode. And last quick question is, do you have a favorite book or course or documentary or anything that you'd like to share that's not, of course, your own, because you do awesome stuff, but this will be somebody else's documentary or tool or resource or book? What would be the thing that you want to leave our listener with?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm combing through the mental files. Certainly two that I've mentioned. Jeff Walker's product launch formula, which he launches once a year. It is about launches, but it also, that is probably the number one place where I learned about crafting an ideal client, doing competitor research, voice of customer research, funnel strategy, email copy, pricing strategy. There's so much stuff in there. And I learned so much from that. And even if you want to put out an online course, that's a big thing right now. A lot of people are coming to me wanting to put out their first online course, and that is a great place to learn strategy around that. Also, anything from copy hackers. Joanna Weeb is the owner of that. Their stuff I find to be a little more advanced, but it's very, very, very good. And I'm sure there's more, but those are the two things that are coming to mind right now. I will also say that I love ConvertKit for email marketing. Um, I find that I'm sure there are a lot of other platforms out there. Okay, so I'll also caveat the copy recommendations with, I am someone who I probably intuitively get to the right thing for me. And I'm also someone who I will focus on one or two resources, because if I focus too widely, it's just too confusing. I recommend that for anyone. Like, if you listen to everything you see out there all the time, all at once, your brain's going to jam. And so, when I find resources that I think are good, I just work with one or two or maybe three. So there could be other fantastic courses out there that I just don't know intimately. And I would always look for ones that are focused, that are highly respectful of an audience and also focused on metrics and performance. But
Great.
yeah, ConvertKit's great for email marketing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was fabulous, Suzanne. Yeah, appreciate your pitch. I appreciate your sharing those wisdom nuggets. And yeah, I hope our listener who is interested in working with you will contact you at SuzanneReilley.com.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me.
Okay, and thank you, listener. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a fantastic week. My name is Stephan Spencer. I'm your host, and this is Marketing Speak. Take care.